It was a moment that shattered the quiet hum of an ordinary afternoon, like a thunderclap ripping through a still sky. A sleek black SUV, emblematic of authority and command, coasted down a sun-dappled street. Behind the wheel sat a man, a rare breed, clad not just in uniform but in legacy. A young black general in the U.S. Army, a symbol of hard-fought triumph and unyielding discipline. Without warning, the pulse of normalcy cracked. Flashing lights sliced through the windshield's calm, and a patrol cruiser edged forward with an unspoken menace. The engine growled, a low vibration that echoed suspicion before words were spoken. "Pull over," came the cold, clipped command from a voice laced with something unreadable. The general's eyes sharpened. His hands tightened on the steering wheel, sensing the undercurrent of something deeper than a routine stop. The city's hum faded, the air thickened. Onlookers paused, the invisible thread of tension stretching taut across the pavement. As the cruiser's door slammed, time fractured. Inside that confined space, beneath the hard gaze of the cop, layers of history churned silently. Two men bound by a past neither dared to fully acknowledge. Glimpses flashed, childhood streets where they once shared laughter, a broken promise whispered beneath a blood-orange sunset, a betrayal buried beneath years of silence. The cop's badge gleamed, not just as a symbol of law but as a shield and a weapon. The general's voice broke the rising storm, firm yet edged with urgency. "Before anything else, I need to make a call." It wasn't a request. It was a lifeline, a tether to truth in a moment spiraling toward chaos. The street held its breath. The world narrowed to the tension between two men, one bound by duty, the other by history. And the question hung heavy. What shadows from the past had caught up with a man who had conquered battlefields, only to be trapped in a war of his own making? Under the watchful gaze of uniformed eyes, the general's voice broke the tense silence, slipping through secure lines as if carrying the weight of worlds. That call to the Pentagon wasn't just a message. It was an ignition, a spark igniting a firestorm beneath layers of steel and secrecy. Inside the Pentagon's shadowed halls, ears pricked up, minds raced, and an encrypted alarm flashed, red, urgent, unyielding. A cyber tempest was on the horizon, a digital onslaught poised to shatter defenses and rewrite the rules of engagement. But within those fortified walls, a fissure opened. Leaders fractured like cracked glass. One faction desperate to shield the general from fallout, to protect the man behind the call as if he were the last bastion against chaos. The other faction, wary and cold, argued for silence, for invisibility, for burying the truth deep beneath bureaucratic dust. The divide wasn't just about strategy, it was a battle of wills, of loyalties, of what shadows were allowed to breathe. As tension threaded through every corridor, the Pentagon transformed into a crucible of urgency and uncertainty. Commands crackled, faces tightened, and the quiet before the storm gave way to a frantic scramble, each second ticking like a countdown to a reckoning no one could yet see but all could feel. The balance of power, trust, and survival teetered precariously, and the world outside remained oblivious to the seismic shift shaking the very heart of the nation's defense. In the shadowed recesses of the city's underbelly, the figure known as the cop was never truly what he seemed. Beneath the badge, beneath the uniform, there lurked a deeper truth, a clandestine existence few could fathom. He was no ordinary officer of the law. He was a ghost, a whisper in the corridors of power, a sentinel tasked with a mission far beyond the badge's glare. This man, this enigma, was an operative forged in the crucible of military intelligence. His orders were clear but perilous. Infiltrate, observe, and above all, test the allegiance of the general, the iron-fisted ruler whose loyalty to the nation teetered on a razor's edge. Loyalty was a currency far more volatile than any street deal or bribe. It was the invisible battlefield on which empires rise or crumble. Inside him, a tempest roiled. The cop was a vessel split in two, carrying the weight of justice and subterfuge in equal measure. By day, a guardian of the streets, by night, a shadow operative navigating webs of deceit. His every move was a delicate dance, balancing the rigid law enforcement code with the murky ethics of covert operations. The lines blurred, identities fractured, and the soul bore the scars. Memories flickered like fractured film reels, pulling him back to a stark room bathed in cold fluorescent light, the recruitment chamber where his destiny was rewritten. The briefing was surgical, a whisper of secrets exchanged behind closed doors. A mission cloaked in shadows, with stakes concealed beneath layers of deception. The orders were precise: test the general's fidelity, provoke but never ignite a conflagration, observe but never interfere beyond protocol. Yet the arrest, the catalyst meant to be a calculated move in this chess game, spiraled into chaos. The carefully laid plans unraveled as unseen forces twisted the narrative. What was designed as a measured test turned into an uncontrolled blaze, threatening to expose the delicate balance he fought so hard to maintain. The mission morphed from surveillance to survival. Now, caught in the storm of his own making, the cop wrestled with the ghosts of his choices. Each heartbeat echoed with the weight of duplicity, the burden of secrets that could topple regimes or shatter lives. In the crucible of loyalty and deception, one truth remained immutable: the war was far from over, and the line between ally and adversary was thinner than ever. Underneath the polished metals and the steady gaze, there was a storm brewing within the general, a tempest born not of battlefields, but of shadows hidden deep within the military's ironclad walls. He wasn't just a man in uniform. He was the keeper of secrets, a silent witness to a web of corruption so vast it threatened to unravel the very fabric of the nation. The moments that followed were not mere memories, but echoes of a truth too dangerous to be told. Flashbacks flicker like ghostly flames, a covert meeting, whispered orders, documents burned in the dead of night. The general's discovery was no accident. Clandestine deals masked as routine operations, untold atrocities cloaked in classified language, illegal arms trades bleeding into global black markets. Every piece of evidence he unearthed was a ticking time bomb, destined to explode the carefully constructed illusion of honor and integrity. But in this labyrinth of betrayal, the true danger was not the enemy beyond the borders. It was the betrayal from within. The general's own command, the very institution sworn to uphold justice, conspired to silence him. The arrest wasn't a miscarriage of justice, it was a surgical strike, a setup designed to bury the truth beneath layers of lies and smokescreens. They didn't just want to stop him, they wanted to erase him. Outside the prison walls, the world trembled with the ripple effects. The media, once complicit in silence, now roared with outrage. Headlines blazed with questions no one dared to ask before. Protests erupted like wildfire, streets flooded with voices demanding accountability. But as the crowd swelled, so did the divisions. Lines drawn not only between government and citizen, but along fractures of race, politics, and ideology. This wasn't just a story of one man's fight. It was a mirror held up to a society teetering on the edge of chaos. The general's downfall became the spark that ignited a powder keg of tension, forcing everyone to confront uncomfortable truths about power, loyalty, and justice. What do you think lies beneath the surface of such conspiracies? Is the truth worth the cost of peace? Drop your thoughts below and let's unravel this tangled web together. Underneath the surface of every headline, behind the whispers of classified files and shadowed corridors, lies a legacy concealed from the eyes of the world. This is no ordinary tale of rank and order. It's a lineage woven with secrets so profound, they defy the very notion of loyalty and allegiance. At the heart of this web sits the general, an unassuming figure whose true importance transcends his decorated uniform and countless campaigns. His family is the silent custodian of a clandestine force, a hidden armament not just of firepower, but of influence so potent, it could redraw the map of power across continents. This weapon is not carved from steel or launched from missiles. It is a project birthed in the abyss of military innovation, shrouded in secrecy so dense that only a handful even dare whisper its existence. The general's arrest cracks this delicate veneer. What was once a fortress of silence now trembles on the edge of collapse. Enemies, both cloaked within the ranks and lurking beyond borders, sense the unraveling. They move like shadows at twilight, ready to seize the keys to this secret. This is no mere scandal, it is a potential pivot that could tilt the axis of global dominance. To understand why the general is more than just a title, one must grasp the weight of heritage. His bloodline is interlaced with guardianship, not just of weaponry but of knowledge that wields the power to shift the fate of nations. Generations before him took solemn oaths, not to commands on a battlefield, but to the preservation of this covert legacy, passed down like a whispered prophecy. His significance is a complex tapestry of trust, burden, and an unspoken covenant. The general stands at a crossroads where duty clashes with destiny, where loyalty is tested against the specter of betrayal. This is a saga not merely about rank or rebellion but about a hidden legacy that could either safeguard or shatter the fragile balance of power in the world. As the shadows close in, the question is no longer who holds the general's fate, but who will claim the secret that he was born to protect. In the dim pulse of a forgotten city, beneath flickering neon shadows and the silent weight of secrets, two men stood on the precipice of collision. The general, once a titan in the storm of war, now a ghost hunted by his own legacy. And the cop, shaped by law, bound by duty, yet haunted by the echoes of a brotherhood that time tried to bury. Their eyes met, more than mere glances, but electric currents drawn from old wounds, buried betrayals clawing their way to the surface. The air thickened, charged with years of silence screaming louder than any gunshot. The cop's hand trembled, not from fear, but the gravity of fractured trust. Orders burned cold inside him, etched in iron and fear. Yet beneath that, something fiercer, the man he once called friend. "Why are you here?" The cop's voice cracked, brittle like rusted steel, an edge sharpened by confusion and duty. "You're the enemy. The system says you're the traitor." The general's face was a map of battles, both fought outside and inside. Enemy? Traitor? I'm the truth buried beneath their lies. You're caught in their web, but I'm here to cut the threads before we all drown. A shadow flickered across the cop's features. The memories came unbidden, laughs shared in a darker time, hands clasped in promise beneath a fractured moon. Could loyalty to the past outshine the harsh light of the present? Could he defy the very system that molded him? I've seen what this corruption breeds, rotting from the inside out, devouring the nation's soul. They will burn everything to keep their secrets safe. But you, the general's voice lowered, urgent and raw. You can still stop it. You can be the reckoning. The cop's heart thundered in his chest, caught between the iron grasp of orders and the fragile threads of an old allegiance. Could one man's defiance turn the tide? Or would loyalty to a fractured past cost them everything? In that charged silence, the war within raged fiercer than any battlefield. The choice was no longer about right or wrong, but about who he was willing to become. Underneath the heavy cloak of secrecy, a revelation surfaces. The general, once shadowed by accusation, once a pariah in the corridors of power, is now untarnished. The verdict is clear. Yet, his voice trembles not with relief, but with warning. A threat, far more insidious, far darker, lurks beyond the horizon, one that no one yet dares to name. The covert operation, a tangled web of whispered orders and midnight maneuvers, pushes forward. But with every step deeper into the labyrinth, new figures emerge from the shadows. Players whose allegiances shift like smoke in the wind, whose motives remain obscured by layers of deception. Secrets once buried beneath layers of silence claw their way into the light, shaking the foundations of trust and loyalty alike. The air thickens with tension as alliances fracture and unseen hands pull strings from the darkness. The battlefield is no longer just in the open, but hidden behind veils of lies and betrayals, where every move is calculated, every whisper a potential spark for chaos. And then, the unthinkable, the general, thought sidelined and silenced, re-enters the fray. His eyes burn with a fierce resolve, his mission now crystal clear. Unmask the puppeteers controlling the fate of the nation, reveal the concealed architects of turmoil before the storm consumes everything. The story is far from over. The shadows lengthen, the stakes escalate, and the game is just beginning. Will the truth emerge from the darkness? Who will stand when the dust settles? If this gripping journey has you on the edge of your seat, don't keep it to yourself. Like, subscribe, and share this tale with those hungry for the untold. Together, we'll unravel the secrets that threaten us all. Stay vigilant. The next chapter awaits.